This is a bubble that's going to pop.
So they reported that they had 353,000 jobs in the month of April. And then quietly in the middle of the night, midnight,
Barron's breaks it.
Report saying they were way off, and the government indirectly, slowly corrected themselves after having made the announcement that they had 353,000 jobs, which makes the government look. Wait till we show the numbers here on this one. Very interesting. Americans are raking up phantom debt, multiple job holders, primary job, full-time. Wait till you see the numbers. Record-breaking number. Tom will show you. Another stat came up that we have to talk about this. Remember during COVID when they were saying, look, American savings is at the highest it's ever been, $2.1 trillion in savings, and they're paying off their debt, and you're going to see people's credit card debt is going away. This is actually a good idea, UBI. And we said on the podcast, let's just wait a few years and see what American people do with their money. Because if there's one thing we know is that majority of the population does not know how to save. Majority of the population, they're professionals at spending money.
We are in an enormous financial Bible, the likes of which the world has never seen before. But the bubble is about to pop, and it will lead us into the worst financial collapse the world has ever seen. That's the latest prediction out from world-class American entrepreneur Patrick Bet-David. In his latest update, Patrick breaks down why the United States is on a path to financial ruin, as it's now impossible to pay back all of the debt that has been created and money that has been printed. People can't afford their debt anymore. Inflation is out of control, and cost of living is skyrocketing. Patrick also isn't the only one who is observing this. Michael Burry has begun to short the stock market, and Robert Kiyosaki has predicted the coming collapse will be far worse than 2008. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Patrick Bet-David breaks down how you can best prepare yourself to benefit from a collapse. Also guys, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind.
But this data will absolutely shock you when we show it to you. Percentage of U.S. mortgages considered seriously underwater rises. Shocking stat of the day. $2.1 trillion of excess savings has been wiped out of the U.S. economy since August of 2021. Every month since then, U.S. households have depleted their savings at a pace of $70 billion a month to a $72 billion, minus $72 billion in March of 2024 at the same time. So a lot of people would say, well, you know, they're taking this money and they're paying off their debt. What's wrong if we're depleting it? No. U.S. credit card debt has risen from $330 billion to record $1.1 trillion, while the U.S. savings rates has declined from 3.5% to 3.2%. You know what this means? This means a fire sale is coming, because when people look at that chart, by the way, look at the amount of savings we had during COVID. We went from nothing in 2020. Look at the beginning of 2020.
It's a screaming roller coaster.
And it skyrockets. And then they started giving data about the fact that we're paying off credit card debt back to minus $72 billion is where we are. Now, obviously, the buy now, pay later stuff is not helping out. But when somebody runs out of cash and savings, guess what comes next?
Sale.
A fire sale. And I'm going to talk about some of the other data that Tom's got a lot of commentary to give on this. But Tom, what do you think about when you shared this with me that I was blown away by this? Go ahead.
I've been seeing this coming, and this has been really scary. And what it means is, as COVID stopped, you have to look at the emotion of the consumer. As COVID stopped, you can come back out and play, you can travel, you can go to restaurants and things like that. And people got jobs back at restaurants. Those weren't new jobs. They just went back to old jobs. People started spending, and they forgot how good it felt to have the credit cards paid down, have a little bit of money in the bank, courtesy of the government. But to them, the emotion of the average consumer, apparently PBD, was this is free money. And they spent it, and they kept spending it, and they kept spending it. And now we're in a situation where last year, it is a fact, and you can go look this up. This isn't my opinion. This is the fact. Go look at even regular newspapers, USA Today. You don't have to go study the Wall Street Journal. It was saying that the American consumer last year saved the economy in 2023 by spending on GDP. We bought things. We bought plane tickets. We bought tickets to Disneyland, which I never go to. We did all kinds of things like this. And we saved the economy last year because consumer spending in 2023 was crazy. But we were spending our savings, racking up credit card debt, using BNPL, buy now, pay later, in the fall. And now the American consumer is tapped out. Not completely tapped out, but they're pinched. So what comes next? How is the American consumer going to spend its way through the summer of 24 to help the economy? The answer is they can't. Maybe defense spending can, but not them.
Tom, this doesn't include their 401k savings.
No.
This is purely cash, checking account, saving account.
That's the other part of the emotion, is the stock market did pretty good last year. So most people probably talking to their HR department, hey, how's our 401k? The average investment fund? Oh, it's pretty good. We had a 22% year. So that probably is a deception, because you see your 401k, hey, honey, my 401k was up 20% at work. Isn't that pretty cool? And then you look at your IRA. Hey, my IRA was up 25% because it was tied to the S&P and Mag 7 last year. Just average people using average index funds that are most of the time, those look pretty good. So maybe they see those and they feel pretty good, but they're spending the paycheck and they're just living paycheck to paycheck now. It's a fact.
You hit a key word, the American consumer. What's the root of consumer? Consuming. I would argue that you should be an American saver or an American investor. Keep things simple. The rule of 3. Finance is like a traffic light. You're either red, yellow, or green. Most Americans, whether it was during Bush, whether it was Obama, whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden, 2/3 of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. It doesn't stop. So stop focusing on what's going on in the White House. Start focusing on what's going on in your house. Most Americans are in debt. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They're trying to save that money, but they can't get out of their own way. Then when you can start saving that money, save 10 grand. Amazing. Half of you are like 10 grand. How the hell am I going to get there? The other half are like 10 grand. I got 300 grand in the bank. But very few people are able to do that. Once you can get to green, you can become an investor. Last point. It's called personal finance for a reason. It's called personal responsibility for a reason. It's called self-reliance for a reason, because it's on you, bro. They say 80% of the people don't care about your problems and 20% of the people are happy you have them. Save that money.
It's a great point there. And by the way, when you think about the basics of money, right, the basic principles of money, watch what happened here. So who else is going to be affected by this when you see savings going down? My dad, I've talked about this many times. My dad would say, listen, a man without savings is not a man. There's a part of a man that feels like he lost his manhood when you don't have savings. He said, always have money nobody knows you have. Not your wife, not your family, nobody. When we were about to go out of business, the insurance company, I had a money set aside that nobody knew about. That's what saved the business. I had $13,000 down to the last $13,000. If I didn't have that additional money, we are out of business. There is no valuetainment. There is no PBD podcast. I'm probably selling gym memberships right now somewhere. Okay. I'll be one hell of a gym membership salesperson. Don't get me wrong. But here's the point. Savings wise, watch what happens. How many people were begging to work from home?
A lot of them.
Well, when you give people cash and they pay off their debt and they're sitting at home, and every company is worried about losing their employees, you can ask for work from home. But now savings is depleted. Guess what? What are you going to say? I'll walk out of the closet in the office. Can I just get a desk or something? Please. What's the point? Here's the point. Bullying on both sides is not cool. It's not bullying when employers bully. It's not bullying when employees bully. For the first time, we experience employees bullying employers during COVID in the most dark, deceptive, dirty way. I had a guy that we gave a raise to. We hired this guy at, let's just give a round number. This is not here. This is the insurance. This is Texas. Tom, you'd remember the story. We hired this guy and we gave him a salary. I won't even say the number. So let's just say it's $50,000. Okay. 2 months later, he comes and he says, I got an offer for another company. You got to bump me up to $80,000 or else. I'm like, is this guy joking? So but we need him. We can't get anybody at this time during COVID. So we went up to $70,000. 2 months later, he comes and says, I got another offer for $120,000. If you don't pay me $100,000, I'm leaving. I said, guys, this guy's gone. He leaves. The other company that he went to, he ends up not even working out over there and he had to go to a different place. And then eventually people realize, dude, you're not $120,000 a year person. You're $55,000 a year person. Yeah. And you have to go back because you have to prove results. What this is doing right now when you see savings depleting to the numbers that it is, there's going to be a lot of desperate decisions being made. By the way, this leads me to a quick number here. We've talked about this before, but the level of delinquency on this concept here has to be talked about. Americans are raking up phantom debt that Wall Street simply can't track. This is a Bloomberg story. So folks, listen up. Here we go. The rise of phantom debt is through popular buy now, pay later. You keep hearing about BNPL platforms like Affirm, Klarna, Afterpay, which aren't reported to credit agencies, masks a true picture of American households' financial health. People need to be more awake of the rise of BNPL. BNPL's lack of transparency stems from a dispute between providers and credit bureaus, with BNPL companies resisting data disclosure, arguing it could harm customers' credit scores. Despite this, the market continues to expand, obscuring economists' understanding of consumer spending and debt. BNPL's allure of installment payments attracts consumers, but a Harris Poll survey reveals, ready? concerning trends. 43% are behind on their buy now, pay later payments, and 28% are delinquent on other debts due to BNPL spending. Insanity. Tom, thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, there's a line in here that, capitalist I am. BNPL companies resisting data disclosure, arguing it could harm consumer credit scores. It should harm their credit scores if they're already tapped out on their credit cards and BNPL wants to lend them more money. And BNPL companies, they want to make money. They want to loan the money, but they're saying, well, maybe we don't want to disclose the data. We want to do a soft credit review because it could harm the credit scores. Guess what? The credit score is like blood pressure or temperature. It's a vital sign. Fair Isaac, FICO, all of that was a vital sign made to test one of the measures of financial health and capability for a consumer. So when BNPL companies say, oh, we don't want to do data disclosure, that might harm the credit score, it should harm the credit score because the consumer's borrowing even more money when they already have an average or poor credit score because of their credit card spending in the first place. And I think what we saw here on the Harris poll, this chart, take a look at this. How many of this is the consumer basically admitting they don't have financial education or discipline? Spent more than I can afford. Find it difficult sticking to a monthly budget. Surprised by how much I owe monthly on BNPL. You couldn't take $500 for a TV, divide by 5 months, and realize that was $100 a month? How do you figure that? Falling behind on my other lines of credit, gone into debt, my spending is out of control. Look at this, like 3, 4, 5 of these are people openly saying they are absolutely incapable or not educated or out of control. To me, this is a huge issue.
I love it. The fact that you're talking about this and seeing what's going on. Impacts of buy now, pay later. Users of services reported various ways the product hurts their finances. Number 1, 54%. Spent way more than I can afford. Of course. Number 2, worse off financially, 34%. Find it difficult sticking to a monthly budget. Surprised by how much I owe on BNPL. Hurt my credit score. Fallen behind on my other lines of credit. Gone into significant debt. My spending is out of control. People are going through it. But as much as you see a report like this, he said something earlier, one can say, it's not fair. It's BNPL's fault. It's Klarna's fault. It's all these companies' fault. No one forced you to use it. You chose to use it. You chose to go buy those gifts during Christmas you couldn't afford to buy.
Right.
Nobody forced you to make that decision. Nobody forced me to buy a car I couldn't afford that I eventually lost. Nobody forced me to do it. I made that decision to get an Expedition with $600 car payment when I was making only $30,000 a year. I made that choice. I got into that $49,000. I had to make some changes. I had to change the way I looked at money. I had to change the relationship I had with money. Unfortunately, many keep blaming other reasons why this is taking place instead of taking full responsibility for it. And it's not easy to do, but some of us had to do it.
Well, this buy now, pay later, I'm a big alliteration acronym, BNPL. It's buy now, pay later. It actually is broke now, poor later. Oh, pobrecito Latino, oh my God.
Yeah.
But it's on you at the end of the day. So there's another term that you should be familiar with. I was like, okay, I'm pretty astute when it comes to personal finance. This is a new one. And they called it money dysmorphia. Money dysmorphia, this is a new term. And it basically means that you have a distorted perception of your finances, and it's running rampant with Gen Z. 41% of millennials have this, and it says an uptick in Gen Z. Now, what is money dysmorphia? It's a disconnect between your actual financial well-being and what you actually perceive that you have, according to TikTok. Literally influenced by TikTok feeds. Thanks, China, for all your well-being. We've seen the stats come out there. 2/3 live paycheck to paycheck. 50% of Americans don't have $400 for an emergency. 25% of Americans don't have $1,000 in savings. Only 50% of Americans actually invest. So the choice that you have to make is, do you want to be a part of the rich get richer crew or the poor get poorer crew? I chose, when I was broke as shit, get my mind right, then you get your money right, then the rich get richer.
So what's the end game for all these problems that you guys are saying? People aren't saving. They're doing the buy now, pay later. This is going to lead to something bad. I know you're talking about the fire sale, but overall, this is increased poverty. The dependency is going to be on the government. The economy is going to be messed up. Housing is going to be messed up. This is a bubble that's going to pop. Am I right?
You're not wrong, because there's another story, perfect way to transition into what you're talking about here. Percentage of U.S. mortgages considered seriously underwater rises. This is not good, right?
No,
this is not good. So when you're seeing, because nobody thought it was going to happen now, everybody said, oh, this is not going to happen, this is not going to happen, this is not going to happen. Seriously underwater mortgages in U.S. increased from 2.6% to 2.7% in Q1 of 2024, with Kentucky experiencing a significant rise from 2% to 8.3%, followed by West Virginia up to 5.4%, and Oklahoma from 5.5 to 6.1. Louisiana and Wyoming had the highest shares of seriously underwater mortgages at 11.3% and 8.8%. The proportion of equity-rich mortgages declined to 45.8%, marking a 2-year low.
Here's what's happening. In certain markets, prices rose really, really fast, like Texas and Florida. In other markets, houses went up more moderately. Remember that spike we all saw right after COVID? Interest rates were jumping up. So in the markets where the prices didn't go up too quick, guess what happened? People went out and bought houses. And this happened in the rural and moderate markets first. That's why we're seeing these stats in Kentucky, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Louisiana, Wyoming. Those people went out and they got 6 3/4 and 7% mortgages. Okay. Those are expensive. And now those markets have gone down, and now those mortgages are underwater, but they're underwater at higher interest rates. Those people may not be able to refi, because what do you need to refi, Adam? You need an appraisal. And if you can't get the appraisal to counter the value of your mortgage, then you're going to be stuck with that 7% mortgage while the value of the home has come down. So basically, the spike we saw after COVID, people went out and bought homes. Not a lot of them, because remember, overall home buying was down. But those that did, now that the prices are retreating, those mortgages are underwater, and the amount of equity overall in mortgages, that's an equity-rich mortgage. Oh, my mortgage is only 50% because I have all this equity in my house. That equity is coming down. So we're seeing a moderation in prices, and people are about to get pinched, and they're not going to be able to refi their way out of expensive mortgages.
So underwater mortgage means you owe more on the mortgage than the house is actually worth.
This is the problem I have with people that are buying houses. You think you could just blindly walk into a real estate investment, like, I just became a millionaire. Doesn't work that easy. There's a famous phrase, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Here's a little fun fact for you. 100% of foreclosures are because people can't afford their mortgage. If you can't afford your rent, they just kick you out. Sorry, time to go. Can't afford your mortgage, the bank takes over your loan. You got to go. So the number one thing that Tom pointed out was, I spent more than I can afford. That also works in buying a home. Maybe you should have bought a $350,000 home, but you bought a $500,000 home because you thought that, I don't want to live in this little crappy house. I want to live in a big house or whatever, depending on whatever neighborhood. Maybe you should have bought $1 million house, not a $2 million house. And then what happens is you buy them more than you can afford. You realize, listen, I thought that I can make a $5,000 mortgage payment every month. What they didn't tell you was you also have taxes. You also have insurance. You also have HOA. So all of a sudden, this American dream that you've been told lies within homeownership becomes an American nightmare.
I want to say this though, and it's very important for you to get this message, guys, because sometimes you hear a message like this and it's kind of like, dude, I know I'm in it right now and I feel like and you're making me feel even more like But this is what I do want to tell you, a part of it for you to be thinking about. Everybody at this table at one point had nothing going on. Sometimes the best part about making the changes to get rid of arrogance, there are not a lot of qualities more unattractive than arrogance. Maybe somebody that's entitled, maybe somebody that's a victim, maybe somebody that wants to blame everybody. But arrogance gets kicked out of you, God willing, when you hit rock bottom and you lose everything. All the fame in the world, all the accolades. You're out. Oh my God, you're that guy. Oh my God, oh my God, look at your car. Oh my God, look at this. All of that stuff. If you buy into that, you're going to go back to where you were before. So if you're watching this right now for yourself saying, man, what do I do with this? Everything starts off with habits. What are your daily habits? What you're doing? Okay. What are you spending money on? Literally go take your credit card and your debit card with you and your wife, sit down and go line by line on what money is being spent on and cut them off. Go on your iPhone. Do you know on your iPhone, you can go manage your subscriptions on your iPhone? Do you know how many of us have subscriptions that we no longer do anything with, that we haven't used for a year, 2 years, 3 years, but you're still paying $10 a month, $8 a month. It's an app you downloaded, you forgot about. There's $9.99, $14.99, $29.99. You can literally go on your phone to manage all the subscriptions that you're paying for. It's not a challenging thing to do. One must sit down and go through all the stuff they're spending money with. And then the tough part is, I'm talking to this one guy who at one point he was a stud in his business, what he was doing. He says, man, what do I do? I said, dude, if you got to do Uber 2 hours at night from 10 to 1 o'clock for the next 6 months, you got to do it. You got a wife and kids. Pat, you want me to do Uber? Nobody put you in this situation. You're in this situation. Yeah, you got to get out of it. You got to go Uber. I was selling shirts when I had nothing, when I lost it all, with my shirt off, because the only thing I could advertise was my chest, my biceps, and my abs. That's the only thing. I would advertise everything else, but I could legally advertise. I would buy it in downtown for $2, and I would sell one for $15, two for $20, and people would buy it. That's how I was making my money to get out of it. So if you're going through it, you're going to have to do certain things that maybe goes against your ego and pride, and it's going to really mess you up. But nothing is more important than you protecting your family and delivering on your promises. And that's what you and I are responsible for doing. We chose to be husbands. We chose to be fathers. We chose to be leaders. And a leader sometimes has to make some decisions and suck up his ego. It's not an easy thing to do for us, but we have to do it.
One of the greatest things I've learned from Pat is the concept of sequencing. Do this before you do this. You know, the famous, you got to walk before you run before you sprint before you do a marathon, everything like that. I walk people through these 6 principles of wealth. The rule of 3, like I said before with this traffic light, there's red, there's yellow, there's green. Often I find at times that people are investing when they should be paying off debt because they've been told, oh, get a 401k, but you have credit card debt of 22%. Stop investing. Hey, you should be saving, not investing right now. Hey, now's the time to invest. They're doing the sequencing all wrong, and it's just a matter of doing the things in the practical order.
I said, you have an income problem. Go do something with that. Increase your market value within your business. Go learn new skill set so you can bring more value to the company you're working with. You got to do something to take. Everybody's trying to increase their net worth, but they're not trying to fix their spending and they're not fixing their income. You need to increase your income to be able to do some of these other things.
So that's a wrap on Patrick Bet David's deep dive into the financial bubble and the potential collapse we could be facing. The warning signs are getting louder. Mounting debt, runaway inflation, and an unsustainable cost of living are creating a perfect storm. Whether it's Patrick, Michael Burry, or Robert Kiyosaki, these experts are sounding the alarm for a reason. And understanding these trends can be the difference between thriving and struggling when things get tough. The big takeaway here isn't just about the risks, but also about the opportunities. As Patrick Bet David highlighted, even in times of crisis, those who are prepared and strategic can come out ahead. It's crucial to stay informed, stay vigilant, and most importantly, take action now before it's too late. If you gained value from this video, don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps get this information out to more people who need to hear it. And for those who are new here or haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. I cover more content like this on finance, economic trends, and how you can position yourself for success no matter what happens in the markets. Lastly, I want to hear from you. What do you think about Patrick's predictions? Are you preparing for a potential financial collapse? Or do you think this is all overhyped? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing your perspectives. Thanks for sticking around until the end, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay sharp and stay ready.